At Robbie Hermer. Drink every time you hear X country is challenging the liberal international order MSC 2018. Take a shot every time you hear Europe needs a new strategy. At Boris Onsen. The pangolin is the most trafficked mammal in the world. It is vitally important that we stamp out this trade and save these beautiful creatures World Pangolin Day.
And attractive and all the rest of that absolute nonsense. We've got to stamp out this trade in these beautiful creatures, and that's why World Pangolin Day matters so much.
At the Russophile. Who orders Poland more migrants, 10% abortion, less nationalism and go easy on communists? At Redneck Intellect. At Defend Europa. Germany refuses to spend 2% on NATO. Angela Merkel's deputy Sigmar Gabriel has revealed Germany refuses to achieve NATO's defense spending target of 2%. At I am Justin Bailey, at POTU. Breaking a new indictment shows that Internet Research Agency LLC, a Russian organization, engaged in an operation to sow discord in the U.S. political system between 2014 and 2016. Note the indictment has zero ties to POTUS or his. At Raz Zero First, it is a Kodiak moment. At Marina Sinayam, at Avstranslat, at Avst. At Long Live X, let it be known that Cruz messed with the wrong school. We as students are using social media as a platform to have our voices heard. Let it be known that we are and will be in contact with our legislators and politicians. Change is now, and it is starting with the survivors. Managers of a wildlife area in South Africa say a pride of lions killed a suspected poacher. The Umbabat Private Nature Reserve says the man. At Big Stick 2013. That you get well. At Real Donald Trump. Our entire nation, W1 Heavy Heart, continues to pray for the victims and their families in Parkland, Florida, to teachers, law enforcement, first responders and medical professionals who responded so bravely in the face of danger. We thank you for your courage. At Marca Colette. Apparently black people in the US need a fictional superhero to motivate them to vote. Let that sink in.
Der türkische Ministerpräsident hatte ja schon darauf hingewiesen, auch in Interviews, dass sich im Rahmen des Justizverfahrens vielleicht schnelle Bewegung andeutet. Ich freue mich natürlich für ihn, ich freue mich für seine Frau und die Familie, die ja ein sehr, sehr schwieriges Jahr der Trennung aushalten mussten.
Wir haben in den letzten Wochen und Monaten sehr viele Gespräche geführt mit der türkischen Regierung, vor allen Dingen mit meinem Kollegen, dem türkischen Außenminister. Und wir haben versucht, Vertrauensbildung zu betreiben und die türkische Regierung davon zu überzeugen, das Verfahren gegen den deutschen Journalisten Deniz Yücel zu beschleunigen. Die türkische Regierung hat immer sehr viel Wert darauf gelegt, dass es eine unabhängige Gerichtsentscheidung ist, in der sie nicht intervenieren will. Aber sie hat immer wieder deutlich gemacht, dass sie bereit ist, auf ihrer Seite zur Beschleunigung des Verfahrens beizutragen. Und gerade in den letzten Stunden und Tagen ist das mit großem Erfolg der Fall gewesen.
I'm happy for Deniz, I'm happy for his wife, for his family and all his friends, but I think if Deniz would be here right now, he would mention all the other Turkish journalists, all the other Turkish intellectuals, opposition politicians who are still in prison, who do not have the privilege to have a German passport. We should not forget about them.
Politically speaking, he's only one journalist out of many, many who have been behind bars and who still continue to be behind bars. We have 6 German political prisoners still in Turkey, more than 100 journalists there. So the overall human rights situation has not fundamentally shifted. However, if, for the Turkish government, this is a first step towards a change, that would be something that we would, of course, welcome, but we'll have to wait whether that is really the case.
At Wesley Jordan, at News People. What is this kid from that Florida school worried about? Doesn't she know about all the thoughts ampersand prayers with Zen, Marco Rubio ampersand Gov, Scott on the prayer train? There is no reason to be scared anymore, right? Sarcasm gonna form no miracles, no more touch on prayers. At Jorg Webb. Who else was walking the chop shops in Harlem and the Bronx for a month? Remember when the ones involved in a car theft and was my delusion? Else knew I was walking the chop shops. Now out in Operation Cassandra has 1,000 fathers. At Fox Business, at Alvadaking, I am very concerned about the fee. They said protocol wasn't followed. It seems as though the young man was hidden in plain sight.
At an award ceremony, and it was a little subdued. The little girls and boys were dancing and playing instruments, but you could tell their little hearts were heavy. And I want to encourage the families who've experienced loss, all of those who are traumatized, to hold on. President Trump has spoken truly that God hears our prayer, so we must pray for those who have lost. My grandfather, Reverend Martin Luther King Sr., after his son, Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. had been killed, after his son, my dad, Reverend Alfred Daniel Williams King AD, had been killed during the Civil Rights Movement, said, thank God for what we have left. So let us begin, as you've just said very clearly, to come together. It is the division and the fighting that's a problem. I am very concerned about the FBI. Of course, they said protocol wasn't followed, and so the information was not followed up on. It seems as though the young man was hidden in plain sight, giving real signals as to what he was going to do. And so all of the fighting and infighting and party fighting and skin color fighting, we're not colorblind. We're red-blooded Americans. We have living color now. And now we're dealing with the loss of our precious children. And may God really bless and heal this nation. People listen and pray. President Trump is right. We need to talk to God about this.
You know, even...
At Jet Cannon. Breaking the white nationalist group story was debunked yesterday. You can delete these tweets now. At St. Bernardino. Attention community members. We wanted to let you know we are aware of the inappropriate flyers being distributed in the 303700 block of Parkside and Broadmoor. 46 were collected today and the other 11 authorities have been notified. Please destroy or throw away if found. At Thomas 1774 Payne. A Sime passenger booted from Delta flight for screaming about being seated near baby video. An annoyed passenger was kicked off a Delta Airlines flight earlier this month after screaming about being seated next to an 8-month-old. At liberal lector. Guns don't kill people. People kill people. Well, no shit. But I will tell you this, it is a hell of a lot harder to take out 17 with people with a fucking butter knife. Holy, you are too stupid to live sheep balls. At Rihanna.
Думаю, что если бы не я, он бы, наверное, не выбрался.
Я просто помог мальчику, который не мог выбраться из колодца.
По сугробу пошел, захотел и сосульку увидел, так было интересно, может она блестит или нет. Потом упал я. Я прибежал по трубам сюда и начал пытаться ему давать руку. Но он потом провалился туда и совсем не мог руку давать.
Большое спасибо Саше, Илье, что они так не прошли мимо.
Большое спасибо мальчишкам, что наше подрастающее поколение не остается в стороне от таких несчастных случаев.
Какие у человека родители, такой будет и в будущем ребенок. Саша вот именно такой, очень скромный. Но в будущем будет, конечно, опора семьи.
Нужно идти только по дорожкам, всегда.
At liberal racist. The White House has strange denial of an alleged Trump affair with a Playboy playmate fits a pattern. The Washington Post. Trump aides will often attribute denials and conspiracy theories to Trump himself rather than stating them outright.
So they finally read the white paper. It's only been almost 10 years. And they say, oh, the ballooning debts. That's what, caused somebody with a concern to do battle with the terrorists in the central banks. And they say that we printed lots of money, but there was no inflation, failing to recognize that there was no wage inflation for people. There was asset inflation for your punk enablers, asset stripping mongers, and terrorists, but wages didn't go up because using financial engineering, woo, wages no mas. They don't go up. Woo! Minorities, black folks in America, no, they didn't get nothing. No, they're in the wrong gerrymandered quarter. Nothing for them. So it's all smoke and mirrors. And I hope now, I'd like to see the faces of these bankers when they realize that the game is over and they're about to be run over by a steamroller. They're like, ding, 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 we're dead. That's right. Drop dead quicker. Make our lives easier.
At Eric Bullard, at NR, at Rawangnu, sounds like new at no poster boy.
I should've known better, I should've known. the day you try unlock my phone. Where you want see a text from Simone or some random chick, y'all come on. And anytime you see me, you know I see it's drama, 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 drama. And anytime you see you know I see it's drama, 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 drama. I bet you check me Insta on the low, and you text when it a grow. Me not a time for you, baby. This you know me why you know. Never get a chance to
Powerful earthquake hits southwest Mexico. News DW 17:2.2018. Germany SSPD sinks to record low in latest polls. News DW 16:2.2018. We failed death on to accuse Florida gunman wanted to kill French 24.
It's out of Sputnik News. It's out of AP. Florida governor calls for FBI director's resignation over missed shooter's tip on YouTube, you name it. He called himself the school shooter. If there was some weird guy with guns at a school and my kids went there, he called himself, "Hi, Mr. Jones, I'm the school shooter." I mean, I'm sorry. I mean, you're 19-year-old, you're getting your ass kicked.
Russians indicted in special counsel Robert Mueller's probe.
I want to be very, very clear, and it's not because I'm in some FBI butt-kissing operation, but because I've learned how this stuff works. The Democrats would stage riots, came out in the WikiLeaks, came out in other documents, Soros documents in court we covered just last month.
Coinbase blames these for issues around duplicate charges.
Shooting, would cause race riots, would try to discredit
President
local
Sales
governments
2018 on laptops,
to then bring in
TVs,
federal
and
control
Wired.
under UN edict under the Strong Cities Initiative. And believe me, I couldn't believe 2 years ago when they were openly saying the
Never
Justice
afraid
Department
French
Loretta
16-year-old
Lynch
snowboarder
wanted
Ferrer
the
wins
UN
surprise Olympic
to
silver
take over
French
local police
24.
departments. I mean, you can't make that up, but that was the announcements. Even crazier than I can think of. I mean, it's just they're getting bold as they lose. They're like, overshooting. They used to,
Critical
like,
patience in
deny
Eastern
world
Galaxy
government.
used
Now
as
it's like,
bargaining chips.
World
Syria
Government
deeply.
Summit says get rid of the family, this week. So when you just sit there and like attack a group and say every FBI agent's a horrible person and they're all bad and blah, 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 you know there's a political aim behind that because it's an institution. Somebody wants to hijack that institution. And if Trump was trying to clearly block the FBI and do bad things, I'd be against him. But there are criminal elements in the FBI, so they make it about an attack on the FBI instead of about ferreting out criminal elements within it. But if the left and the globalists are going to call for gun control, they're going to blame gun owners and say we're all guilty. And then you've got the holdovers of the whole Obama FBI not doing anything about people that keep wanting to do mass shootings.
A timeline of the tightening siege in Eastern Galaxy. Syria
Bernardino.
deeply.
FBI agents were threatened with arrest, civil rights, criminal investigations, because they were trying to stop people that went to Pakistan and went to Saudi Arabia. Those were FBI agents and federal marshals that tried to do their jobs. They were threatened with criminal charges for civil rights violations, like they were KKK members about to blow up a black church for trying to stop Muslim immigrants that were terrorists and later did attack a Christmas party.
White House blames Russia for not putting cyber attack in history.
No, it was the FBI low level trying to stop it. It was just Department above it making it a political operation completely. That said, here's the breaking news. It's out of London Independent. It's out of Sputnik
Turkey
News.
has to work together in Syria, France 24.
Florida governor calls for FBI director's resignation over missed shooter's tip. On YouTube, you name it. Florida Governor Rick Scott called for the resignation of FBI Director Christopher Wray on Friday after the agency admitted that the January tip regarding Nicholas Cruz was not investigated. The announcement comes after the FBI admitted on Friday that a person close to Cruz connected the agency's public access line to report their concerns about the 19-year-old's gun ownership desire to kill people and erratic behavior, disturbing social media posts. Yeah, he called himself the school shooter. There was some weird guy with guns at a school and my kids went there. He called himself, "Hi, Mr. Jones, I'm the school shooter." I mean, I'm sorry. I mean, you're 19-year-old, you're getting your ass kicked. And I'm not saying that to act macho, man. You walk over and say, "I'm going to shoot your kid." What the hell?
Instagram removes post after Russia watched the borders.
In this country with the leftists and the globalists protecting the Islamicists, the schizophrenics, you name it, it never ends.
Must-read coverage on Syria from 2017. Syria deeply.
We got the guest host here, Joel Gilbert, Larry Klayman, founder of Judicial Watch.
New York prosecutors with Harvey Weinstein's studio ahead of reported Sale News DW 12.2018.
It's all coming up on the other side of this quick 1-minute break. I'm Alex Jones, newswars.com, prisonplanet.com, infowars.com, and I know you're awake. Hell, you're more awake than I am. But if you don't spread the links to the articles, if you don't spread the word, you don't paint InfoWars on the side of your barn, put a sticker on the back of your truck, if you don't call and talk radio or C-SPAN and plug it, they'll beat us. And if they can beat us, they can beat you. But you know what? We keep winning because you keep taking action.
Critical patience in Eastern Galaxy used as bargaining chips. Syria deeply.
Fourth quarter, it's already 20 points ahead. Great job. Let's not just lose this.
You're antibiotic found in your Deluxe Jones InfoWars RS1 for your mind.
It's ours to lose. Let's take it in. The globalists are losing, but they're doubling down their attacks. There's one thing they fear, and it's people power. InfoWars has defeated their censorship so far only because of you spreading the links, spreading the articles, subscribing, clicking the notification buttons, and getting the articles and videos out. But they are intensifying their censorship, so now it's more important than
Trump
ever
was reportedly
to ensure
briefed on
we keep
special counsel
the First
Russia
Amendment
indictments.
alive and well right here in America and free speech worldwide. So from Australia to countries in Africa, to Europe, to Mexico, to right here in the USA, I salute you all for taking action and defending free speech. We will prevail. Introducing Icarin, a 30-day
Now the escalation zones in Syria became a war management strategy. Syria
exclusively
deeply.
available at InfoWarsLife.com. We have set out with top researchers and developers to bring you the strongest, purest, most potent, documented system for your liver and your kidneys.
Understanding America's endgame is Syria 398 tax regulations. Alex Jones InfoWars, there is a run for your
It
mind.
also funds the InfoWar, a total 360 win. Icarin, available now at InfoWarsLife.com.
Nobel laureate to quit such inflation with real and other advertisements of great heights, grant manager says. The fate of minorities in post-ISIS Syria and Iraq. Syria deeply. Stormy Daniels' full interview inside her affair with Donald Trump in Touch Weekly.
All the speculation, the hype around the likes of Bitcoin, Ethereum and Ripple, that there's now a demand for some form of a digital
Politics,
currency.
Yahoo News latest
Central
news
banks are
ampersand
saying, well,
headlines.
if there's already an exchange of money or assets that's taking place in an economy around Bitcoin, for instance, that you need to step up and come up with your own digital currency because there's clearly demand for it.
Well, I think you're right on to it there. It has captured the imagination of people. And so they're asked, well, where are the central banks in this space? And the answer is that actually it's not as simple as it sounds. And so there's a lot of issues to figure out before we would ever consider issuing a digital currency.
Like millions of other people.
Hold up. I'm going in. I find this particularly fascinating. Politics bar Yahoo News latest news ampersand headlines. I found this in the dark corners of the internet. It was very scary.
You use Squarespace to stand out from the sea of sameness. Make your business stand out with a beautiful website. Make it Squarespace. Start your free trial today and use offer code SoundCloud to save 10%.
The indictment centers around allegations a Russian troll farm started interfering in U.S. elections as early as 2014, posing as Americans on social media. The Trump administration has an unprecedented turnover rate of 34%, and scores of key posts remain unfilled. What we know now is that Trump isn't a guy who asks for help. He's not inspired by talent and intellect, he's threatened by it. The Federal Bureau of Investigation admits that it did not adequately pursue a lead regarding Nicholas Cruz's potential for violence before the Parkland school shooting. Veteran photographer Gordon Donovan, Yahoo's photo editor, has returned from the huge open spaces of Namibia with some searingly candid images of great cats, pachyderms, zebra and giraffes on their home turf. The White House declared that the latest charges from the investigation into Russian meddling in the 2016 election prove there was no collusion between President Trump's campaign and Moscow-tied operatives. Germany considering free public transportation to take on air pollution. News DW 13.2018. When I realized what this was, facing new penalties over poor air quality, Germany has said it wants to test free public transport in 5 cities. Bonn and Essen are among the cities to serve as testing ground for the new project. Under pressure from the European Union to rein in air pollution, the German government said it is considering a plan that would make public transportation free in its most polluted cities, according to a letter seen by German media on Tuesday. The letter, sent to European Environment Commissioner Carmen Uvela in Brussels, was written by German Environment Minister Barbara Hendricks, Agriculture Minister Christian Schmidt and Chancellery Office Chief Peter Altmaier. Read more: Germany's air pollution. Clean up or pay up. The German government proposed a free public transportation scheme to encourage people to leave their cars at home, thereby reducing nitrogen dioxide emissions and particulate matter. Now this is out there. Turkey recently announced plans to possibly launch an operation on a Kurdish-held enclave in northern Syria. Jasper Fink, a lecturer in international law, assesses whether there is a legal justification for Ankar's potential operation. Brazil has army ordered to take over security in violent Rio de Janeiro. This is amazing. By Pedro Fonseca and Alexandra Alper. Rio de Janeiro. Reuters. Brazil's federal government on Friday ordered the army to take over command of police forces in Rio de Janeiro state in a bid to curb violence driven by drug gangs, who have virtually taken over Rio's metropolitan area of 12 million people, President Michel Temer said in announcing the decree. The emergency measure could delay a vote in Congress on pension legislation, the Temer government's flagship reform. The bill, designed to address the pension system's massive deficit, requires an amendment to the Constitution, which is banned during any such federal intervention. Deadly violence in Rio de Janeiro has spiked in recent years, with an 8% increase in killings last year over 2016 and a 26% jump since 2015, according to statistics from the Rio state government. News and current affairs from Germany and around the world. DW. I found this in the dark corners of the internet. It was very scary. German Foreign Minister Sigmar Gabriel has called for European unity in the face of growing global tensions. He also spoke of German perturbation at Washington's foreign policy at the Munich Security Conference. Go to article. The FBI has admitted that it received a tip from someone close to the suspect, warning of a possible school attack, but that agents failed to follow up. Meanwhile, President Donald Trump has met with the victims. German-Turkish journalist Deniz Weissel has returned to Germany after spending more than a year in a Turkish prison, jailed without charges. His release comes as 6 fellow journalists were sentenced to life in prison. 13 people and 3 companies have been charged with political tampering, bank fraud and aggravated identity theft. The indictment said some defendants communicated with unwitting members of the Trump campaign. Brazil's military has taken full control of security in Rio de Janeiro and the surrounding state in an effort to fight gang violence. The move comes after the defense ministry said security in the city was broken. Hold up, this is really interesting. With Syria's healthcare system crippled by conflict, women and children are dying from treatable illnesses. One doctor and his team are providing them safe, dedicated medical care by building hospitals below ground, out of the reach of airstrikes. Atomish frog guy, I thirst for terrible resist Twitter memes this day. At Real Savidra. You know it is bad when CNN is forced to admit the truth. At Chicago 1. At Emrapatio, anointing service tomorrow. At Gilbert Collard. Erlenskmont Morlet Civical Kol Salo Deep at ECHR Yenrasus Manger Deep Boys in Labraj DCR Nivators Danes Lime Me Sens. Alliance Insider. There will be no civilian trials for the Illuminati coup. Below are rumors and summary thoughts by one who follows the hidden news. But, as officers seize the drugs at a property in Glasgow following the tip-off. At Ed Grasson. Just because the indictment of the 13 Russians doesn't say Trump colluded, that doesn't mean there was no collusion by Trump. It simply means that the investigation is still ongoing, and it will be ongoing for a long time. At AB, surveillance video shows a would-be burglar throwing a brick in an attempt to break a window, but missing and hitting his partner instead. The suspect drags his partner away afterwards. At News. China has learned the hard way that blackface might not be the best idea if you want to show your appreciation to African countries.
哦，我太激动了！我要把这个好消息告诉我所有的亲戚朋友。
阿姨。生一世不后悔，新郎新娘嘴对
嘴，大家鼓励一下，亲一个，亲一个，亲一个。
哎呀，妹妹啊！
你可来了，
妹妹呀！
哥，
哎，
他们干嘛呢？
这不正走流程吗？你来的正好，这就是你的事儿。来来来，站好，站好，站好，站好。来，新郎新娘，最后一下，新郎新娘入。
President Trump signed new sanctions against Russia, Iran, and North Korea, a bill that was approved by all but 5 members of Congress. Here is who voted no. At Topkins, at Mark Goldring. No, you didn't. At Mark Goldring won my love, 130k 25k pension expenses. And you even didn't murder babies. We should be thankful Oxfam scandal. A second open letter to Julius O'Malley, and your Mary, then I am a bit surprised that you didn't react in any way to my previous open letter. From what I know of you, you react to everything in
Kosovo today celebrates the 10th anniversary of its declaration of independence from Serbia. Preparations are underway in the Kosovo today celebrates the 10th anniversary of its declaration of independence from Serbia. Preparations are underway in the capital Pristina for parties and banquets to herald the occasion. But it's also a day for remembering those killed during the Kosovo War, which ended the oppressive Milosevic regime's hold on the country and paved the way for independence. Despite the jubilant atmosphere, however, Kosovo's independence is still not recognized by close to 100 nations.
So this is reading from the article. The course with the official title, The Truth About Pornography, a pornography literacy curriculum for high school students designed to reduce sexual and dating violence, is a recent addition to Start Strong, a peer leadership program.
News and current affairs from Germany and around the world.
South End, and funded by the city's public health agency. About 24 selected high school students attend every year, most of them Black or Latino, along with a few Asian students from Boston public high schools, including the city's
leading Venezuelan party to boycott election. News DW 17.2018.
Dating violence and LGBT issues, as opposed to English and history.
Friends
and
rape charges against Budget Minister Jael Garman. Drop. News DW 16.2018.
Exercise, you know, I mean. So what they're teaching them is that porn isn't necessarily reality. I mean, that's a very sad answer. It's a very sad answer. And yet, what are the other answers? Ross Douthat, in reaction to this piece, Ross Douthat is the Catholic op-ed writer who used to be a lot better before Trump, but now I think the New York Times just does not let people write what they actually think. Anyway, he wrote a piece called Let's Ban Porn. And he says the belief that it should not be restricted is a mistake. The belief that it cannot be censored is a superstition.
Federer becomes oldest world number one. Friends 24.
Changed once to allow porn. It can change again. And while you can find anything somewhere on the internet, making hardcore porn something to be quested after in dark corners would dramatically reduce its pedagogical role, its cultural normalcy, its power over libidos everywhere.
Counting the homeless on the streets of Paris. Friends 24.
Libertarian site, they don't want to ban anything. He says
German Film Festival Berlin Ampersand Beyond kicks off in San Francisco. Film DW 92.2018.
Forcing at minimum every person who has ever attended the Adult Video News Awards in a professional capacity to immediately find a new line of work.
Public company changes name to Riot Blockchain. See shares rocket.
Incredibly lucrative websites from posting, hosting, or otherwise distributing explicit materials. After you
Turkey
crack down
has
on
to
the
work
pros,
together in Syria.
you
Friends
need to go
24.
after amateurs by finding some way to stop tens of millions of iPhone-wielding Americans from making home movies, many of which would resemble professional products in quality. You know, what's interesting about this, and by nature I'm a libertarian, but I really see this as a plague, and the plague's not porn. The plague is an attitude to the human body and to human relationships that was sold to us by the left all from the 60s to today, and now that they're reaping the whirlwind, they don't like it very much. It's interesting when you look at the great ages of civilizations. If you think about the Augustan age of the ancient Rome, if you think about the Victorian age, if you think about the American 1950s, they're all marked by at least an outward display of prudery. And it's always prudery that comes after a libertine age. So in America, we had the 1920s and the 1930s, and anything goes.
Never afraid. French 16-year-old snowboarder career wins surprise Olympic silver. Friends 24.
By the 1950s, not so much. And that was the golden age of this generation, of this cycle of Americanism. Victorian age, same thing. In the 1700s, lots of sex, lots of books about sex. Tom Jones and things like that. By the 1800s, by the Victorian
German
age,
Film Festival Berlin Ampersand Beyond kicks off in San Francisco. Film DW 92.2018.
Of human civilizations. But one of the things is that with that comes a new respect for women in the household. And the Victorians would call her the angel in the house, the angel in the house. And of course, in the 1950s, the housewife was one of the key elements of all entertainment, all ideas. So what's interesting is that feminism has always had this reactionary
surging inflation will save $1 as the Fed ramps up rate hikes, wealth manager says.
Same kind of sex, and then, oh my God, women are being abused. This is no good. This is no good. They've always had this idea that men's desires should be prohibited.
The shifting role of women in Syria's economy is Syria deeply.
They've always had a strain of feminism, and porn was bad. And it would be interesting if feminism morphed in the same way that the left has morphed. The side of free speech has now morphed into the side of no speech. It would be
Germany considering free public transportation to take on air pollution. News DW 13.2018.
Defense of women in their roles as guiding families, guiding men, civilizing men. Now, when you say that without women, men would be uncivilized, feminists start screaming at you and say, it's not our role to civilize men. It's not our role to civilize men. And yet, they don't like living in a world without civilized men in it. And women are the only things that civilize men. All this Me Too movement is living in a world where
World News breaking international news and headlines. Sky News.
Men have lost their mission to civilize men, have lost their mission to form men in families and in marriage. And
the impact of Chechen and North Caucasian militants in Syria deeply.
Like so much what that looks like when that actually happens. So I have many times predicted a new Victorian age is coming. I do believe that is true. And it will be interesting to see if feminism morphs into the leader of some of that Victorian prudery and some of that Victorian elevation.
Copycat how Facebook tried to squash News International and the politics. Sky News. Olympic alpine skiers head with the tea races for gold on and off the slopes.
السوق السوداء والأسلحة اللي عطوها للمعارضة السورية كلها عم تنباع بالسوق السوداء. لذلك نحن فينا بكل بساطة نشتري من هالجماعات مثل من 7 سنين ولهلا نحن عم نشتري منهم.
وقت از یک هوالاتی که عفرینه ویرنگی از دبینن در باسپونا ارتش سوری جبوی هندک نقطه
Ramaphosa vows to revive South Africa's stagnant economy. Friends 24.
دولت سوریه کو نقشه عفرینه نقشه سوری بیشتی دو پاریزی عفرینه جی پرچاک جوی نقشه و تجاری همگل عفرینه جی د دوز آمده د برنامه آمده پرچبونه کتنه بو
لما تقليد نظر دولة باش بو
Russia Trump inquiry president says no collusion as FV charges Russians. BBC News. Did Russia affect the 2016 election? It is now undeniable. Wired. Alex Jones Info Hours there is a warrant for your mind.
ما نقولتي تقسيمة أو تردد ما نقولتي إنه أمرانجي كي بوش قاد خوزن بالأخص يعني بخو وجبك على سر حكوماتي سورية إنه
Critical patients in Eastern Ghouta used as bargaining chips Syria deeply. Syria 2018 the major issues for the year ahead Syria deeply.
السلاح للقوى التي تحارب على الأرض أنا برأيي أنه لم تكن هناك أصلا محدودية بالأساس يعني الواقع الأرض بتفرض أنه هناك حالة من المعركة تدور على الأرض معركة غير متكافئة هناك إرادة تواجه قوى تكنيك عالمية على الأرض
ممكن أو نجي شري وان شري مصالح يعني مصلحتي وان سر أي ملاتك يعني لأما شري ما شري إرادة يعني إرادة
German Film Festival Berlin M% Beyond kicks off in San Francisco Film DW 92.2018. Us will impose costs on Russia for cyber aggression, says cybersecurity czar. How Turkey has potential offering push measures up against Syria deeply.
مكافحة الإرهاب في الشرق الأوسط لا أعتقد أن القوى الدولية ستتخلى عن هذا الشريك الاستراتيجي في مكافحة الإرهاب كونها القوة الوحيدة التي أثبتت جدارتها.
Us indicts 13 Russians for election interference news DW 16.2018. Hungary PM Christian Culture Treasure Alex Jones Info Hours there is a warrant for your mind. Brazil to use army in shock tactic to tame Rio violence. Federal immigration raids in Southern California target 122 businesses. Why Trump's play-by-play MEETIS Sachs scandal is just another day in his presidency. Pop-art pioneer Eduardo Paolosi in Berlin Innovative and Irreverent Arts DW 82.2018. Rowdy family booted from ship after cruise turns to bloodbath to catcom. Apple employees can't stop looking into glass walls. Vanity Fair. The shifting role of women in Syria's economy. Syria deeply.
Here's the breaking news. It's out of London Independent. It's out of Sputnik News. It's out of AP. Florida governor calls for FBI director's resignation over
Romney officially announces Senator Alex Jones info hours. There is a warrant for your mind.
On YouTube, you name it. He called himself the school shooter.
Brazil's military is put in charge of security in Rio de Janeiro. The New York Times.
My kids went there. He called himself, "Hi, Mr. Jones, I'm the school shooter."
Counting the homeless on the streets of Paris, France. 24.
You're 19-year-old. You're getting your ass kicked. I want to be very, very clear, and it's not because I'm in some FBI butt-kissing operation, but because I've learned how this stuff works. The Democrats would stage riots, came out in the WikiLeaks, came out in other documents, Soros documents in court we covered just last month, would exacerbate every questionable police shooting, would cause race riots, would try to discredit local governments to then bring in federal control under UN edict.
Trump tells nation breathing school shooting, we are here for you.
And believe me, I couldn't believe 2 years ago when they were openly saying the Justice Department, Loretta Lynch, wanted the UN to take over local police departments. I mean, you can't make that up, but that was the announcements. Even crazier than I can think of. I mean, it's just they're getting bold as they lose. They're like overshooting. They used to like deny world government. Now it's like World Government Summit says get rid of the family, this week. So when you just sit there and like attack a group and say every FBI agent's a horrible person and they're all bad and blah, 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 there's a political aim behind that because it's an institution. Somebody wants to hijack that institution. And if Trump was trying to clearly block the FBI and do bad things, I'd be against him. But there are criminal elements in the FBI. So they make it about an attack on the FBI instead of about ferreting out criminal elements within it. But if the left and the globalists are going to call for gun control, they're going to...
Watch me spider around. Whoa, this is amazing. 2018 Winter Olympics. No one expected Esther Ledecka to win the Super G. The internet feels like a Wild West, or maybe that's just you crazy people. Pyeongchang, South Korea. Esther Ledecka stood at the bottom of a hill, staring intently at the scoreboard while her coaches, team, family heck, everybody in the whole place erupted in screams of delirium. Ledecka didn't understand why. Nor could she understand why the scoreboard hadn't even updated. It showed her in first place, and surely that was a mistake. I was thinking, okay, they're going to change the time. I am going to wait for a little bit, and they're going to switch and put some more seconds on the check skier said. I was just staring at the board and nothing was happening. Everybody was screaming. And I just started to think about, okay, this is weird. Why do they scream? Because, Esther, you just pulled off the most spectacular, upset and stunning result in Winter Olympics history. Eric Heiden and his 5 gold medals. Herman Mayer and his back from the dead gold. The miracle on ice hockey team. None of them compared to Ledecka, the snowboarder who crashed alpine skiing and then snagged one of its biggest prizes. Travel advisory #issued as snow expected to slam Nick this weekend. Barpix 11 New York. Wild, this is just wild. New York Nick emergency officials have issued a hazardous travel advisory for Saturday evening through Sunday morning due to snow that is expected to slam the area. The National Weather Service has issued a winter storm watch for New York City in effect from 7 p.m. Saturday 7 a.m. Sunday, snow is predicted to begin around 7 p.m. Saturday, with the heaviest snow expected to fall overnight through early Sunday morning. It's expected to end around sunrise. A total of 4 to 6 inches of snow is forecast, with locally higher amounts possible. A winter storm watch means there is potential for significant snow, sleet or ice accumulations that may cause difficult travel conditions. New Yorkers should prepare for snow-covered roads and limited visibility. Commuters are advised to use mass transit where possible, and exercise caution when driving, walking or biking. With snow expected, slippery roads may make travel difficult this weekend, said Nick Emergency Management Commissioner Joseph Esposito. Give yourself some extra travel time and use caution while you're out on Saturday night and Sunday morning. Google legally fired diversity memo author, labor agency, says the New York Times. Check these digits. San Francisco Google did not break a law when it fired an engineer who wrote a memo critical of the company's diversity efforts, a lawyer for a federal labor agency said. Last year, James Damore, a little-known engineer on Google's search infrastructure team, incited outrage at the company and across Silicon Valley for making an argument that seemed to rationalize the pay and opportunity gap between genders at technology companies. Before he was fired by Google, Mr. Damore filed a complaint with the National Labor Relations Board saying that the company had violated his right to engage in concerted activity to address a workplace problem. But Jamie Elsifer, an associate general counsel at the labor agency, said that Google's actions were acceptable because they made clear that Mr. Damore was being fired for comments that advanced stereotypes, not for speaking out about the company. The decision was published on Jan 16 but was not made public until Thursday. Who keeps Britain's trains running? You're at the New York Times. I can't believe what's going on. London. The privatization of public services was one of the central means of reversing the corrosive and corrupting effects of socialism, Margaret Thatcher wrote in her memoirs, just as nationalisation was at the heart of the collectivist program by which Labour governments sought to remodel British society, so privatization is at the centre of any program of reclaiming territory for freedom. Those sentiments fueled a sell-off that put nearly every state-owned service or property in Britain on the auction block in the final decade of the 20th century, eventually including the country's expensive public transportation infrastructure, enshrined by parliamentary acts under Mrs. Thatcher and implemented by her two immediate successors, John Major, the Conservative, and Tony Blair of New Labour. The gospel of privatization was embraced by leaders around the world, notably including Mrs. Thatcher's closest overseas ally, President Ronald Reagan. In the realm of transportation, that gospel was soon betrayed by its own chief disciples. Put simply, there were few private sector buyers with the expertise and deep pockets necessary to maintain control of a transit system that serves approximately 7 billion passengers per year. With minimal transparency, operational ownership of a network of train and bus lines that crisscross the 607 square mile sprawl of Greater London, linking it to the far-flung corners of Britain, was peddled in bits and pieces by the British state or acquired in corporate takeovers. But the new bosses were not private, business-savvy British firms. By 2000, the masters of British public transit, thanks to a scheme that was intended to replace state waste and sloth with soundly capitalist business principles, were foreign governments, most of them members of the European Union. In short, the privatization devolved into a de facto renationalization, but under the direction of foreign states that somehow went largely unnoticed. It now poses a startling and unprecedented dilemma thanks to Brexit, which will soon divorce Britain from the state bureaucracies beyond the English Channel that literally keep its economy in motion. See Drake, #future, more in Fader Fort book preview exclusive, Variety. I can't believe I found this. Anyone who has been to the South by Southwest conference in the past 20 years knows the Fader Fort, the magazine as showcase and party spot at the festival, which started as a party in an Austin hotel room with free beer provided by Levi's in 2002, soon moved to a house, and then grew into a sprawling, custom-built 2-acre miniature city loaded with bars, food, branding activations, multiple sponsors, and of course, stages. The fort was like a living representation of the music, style and swagger featured in the magazine. Over the years, those stages hosted everyone from Drake to Amy Winehouse, from Kanye West to Sam Smith, from Erykah Badu to The Killers, to from Kendrick Lamar to Diddy to Lou Reed. We can remember one year where we saw an acoustic set from Swedish-Argentinian singer Jose Gonzalez, went inside for a drink and some socializing, and by the time we came back, Houston rapper Paul Wall was playing a set that was musically about as far removed as possible from Gonzalez. On March 1st, in the first release from the company's new Fader Books imprint, comes Fader Fort, setting the stage a 250-page hardcover retrospective featuring many previously unpublished photographs from across the years, spanning performances as well as backstage moments, and including a foreword from Albarn and Sean Diddy Combs it as something that as cultural Diddy says in his introduction, you wanna be a part of it. You better be a part of it. It goes on your show bucket list. I did a Fader Fort. See a video trailer for the book below.
Do it with the Navy Federal mobile app. Go try it out.
I'm not done.
Or try it out later. Download the Navy Federal mobile app.
Fader Fort has been our platform to bring great Fader content to life and allow our audience to experience so many incredible artists for the first time, says Fader co-founder John Cohen. The Fader Fort has created many special moments across many genres, in an intimate setting that has allowed artists to establish who they are unlike any festival in the country. Anyone who has been to the South by Southwest conference in the past 20 years knows the Fader Fort, the magazine as showcase and party spot at the festival, which started as a party in an Austin hotel room with free beer provided by Levi's in 2002, soon moved to a house, and then grew into